You here? All right, let's get to it then. Basically, I'm doing this video more or less in response to a situation dealing with family. You know, um, what's your whole intention with family? You know, what situation you have in your family that can help you be better, do better, and go forth from there. A lot of us, we don't have this, connection like we should. So therefore, we go through situation after situation after situation of not being able to, work with each other for what the greater good. I always put it to the mind frame of with me and my family. We have to work with each other. We have to, stand tall. I was recently talking to my brother, and we was having a conversation about people not being able to work with each other and deal with each other in a certain type of way. You know, um, there was a situation that you know panned out because we was driving. When was it? The other day, and we was having a conversation when my aunt used to stay in these apartments, and I was telling him, those apartments they closed down now. Some guy came, bought them from Florida. Actually, was a company, and they were renovating. So they actually took the whole apartment complex and made all the tenants move out. They stressed it time and time again. We're gonna get this facility. Make sure you move out. And shout out to everybody that's coming in the building. And a lot of people neglected the whole point of them actually, renting out the business. I mean, renting out those apartments. I mean, renovating them and getting them out, getting the people out. So a lot of people neglected, waited to the last minute, all the way down to a time where it was time for them to go. Did you know over half of the people that was there in that facility end up getting kicked out, end up having all their stuff out on the street and nowhere to go, people looking around trying to figure out what we gonna do, how we gonna live, what's the next step, you know. And the biggest thing was this, like I told my brother, I was like, what happened to the family? You know, what happened to uncles, everybody that they can talk to, depend on, to actually, help them in that situation. They literally didn't have nobody. And that was the crazy part about that. You mean to tell me you don't have no family members that you can call, stay with them for meanwhile, like nothing, like no family ties to where if any situation, at least I got my cousin over here, at least I got my auntie I can stay with. Like it's come a time where people have burned bridges so bad they literally have nobody to get in contact with. If anything ever happens, I seen this one story where, believe it to be fake or not, the video portrayed a man kicking a woman out at like 3 in the morning, and she had kids. She was questioning him about coming home late, and he has a family. I guess the guy went out and drank, whatever the thing of it was, but they was basically portraying that the guy didn't want her to question him because he paid all the bills. So, what are you questioning me for about hanging out or coming home late when I pay all the bills? So ultimately, it got to the point where he kicked her out. And as he's kicking her out, you know, it was a situation to the point where, like I said, if that person pays all the bills, they looking at it, you shouldn't really say anything. But it was to the point where this lady literally, like, she really had nowhere to go. To where if when the guy kicked her out, where could she go? Who could she deal with? You know? And that was the craziest part about that situation that I looked at. You mean to tell me you literally have no family members, nobody to contact for you to go at, even at 1 o'clock in the morning? I know If I was going through a situation, I can call my aunt, call a cousin. Hey man, just got in a car accident. This and this happened. Um, I need somewhere. I need somebody to come pick me up. Or hey man, me and my wife got into it. Things are not looking good. I need you to come pick me up. They'll be mad about, having me call them late in the morning hours to come pick them up or something like that. But, at the same time, we family. We'll work through it in the morning. Whether you got to cuss me out, talk junk, or whatever, the point of it is you're still coming to pick me up. We still have a situation here and it needs to be resolved. So, as it comes down to it, that's all I'm basically saying. A lot of people have situations to where, like, how are they going to get resolved? Who's going to help you in any situation to where, you have a problem? Can you count on somebody? That's like one of the biggest issues right now facing our society. Like a lot of people, the whole phrase of dying alone, you know, that's kind of a big thing now. But a even bigger thing is not even having family and friends around you who you can depend on in case something happens. You know, if something happened to my grandmother, she has all her kids, grandkids that can come to her aid and help her with things. And another situation, you have um, a situation to where you don't have nobody. You know, you don't have that family member there coming to aid you. So who can you depend on? You know, what about friends? They always say the cliche of uh, blood is thicker than water. But sometimes when it comes to that degree, you literally have family members will not even answer the phone compared to one of your friends be there just as fast as a family member. So that comes a big part into a situation to where a lot of people not having that true understanding of how family can help you during trying times. That's one of the big things that I try to focus on with my channel is having a conversation. My finance, talks and stuff like that, they real heavy to me, but more or less having that structure on who I can depend on, who I can work with, that's like weighted more than gold, when it comes down to certain situations. A lot of us, we have our issues. We have family members that we deal with, but at the same time, my biggest thing is trying to get everybody community based, working with each other. You know, the whole thing is we can't, come together on everything, but on some things, let's work together for the greater good, you know, and that be always my biggest thing is trying to get everybody. We don't have to agree on everything, but there's certain things that we have to work at for the greater good. If I don't like the way you raise your kids, let me give you a helping hand. Let me work with you for the greater good so, your kids can get in a better school. Your kids hang with my kids. You know, I want to see my family members win just like I win. Everybody can't have that same, situation to where we all, doing good, but to a degree, with us working together, have some type of, balance with that. And that's one of the biggest things that, I try to talk about with no matter what, when it comes down to it, I love my family, but sometimes you got to keep your distance. And in keeping your distance, you got to have a level head about certain situations, you know. And with those certain situations of having a level head, you got to take things, for what they are. If you have family members that act a certain way, do certain things, then we have to, work together with. Sorry guys, I'm at the bank trying to get some money. But you got certain people, you can talk to and have an understanding. Certain people, you just can't have that conversation with because hey, when it comes down to it, all they want to do is, benefit them. So those are family members you can't really work with, but the ones you can work with, you try to work with them with a level head because you got to understand there's always going to come a time when you need somebody. So it's better to have family members, comparably friends if needed or if there that you trust and y'all can have the conversation, you know, because at certain times we have situations where we depend on people and they don't come through. That's actually a burden for us. I've had one situation that a family member, um, my check didn't clear on Friday, so they was telling me, well, we'll just pay you Monday. I was like, well, I was banking on this check doing something with it. I called a family member. They was gonna shoot me the money. Yeah, okay. And be that as it may, upon them trying to give me the money, something happened with them, and they wasn't able to send me the money. So I put myself in a situation where I was, short. I could have called another family member, but I was like, I just tough it out, you know. And that's another thing too, having people you can count on. There's people that can do things for you, but then sometimes, they're just not reliable, you know. And so you got to have that conversation and deal with those type of, individuals to where you say, well, I love this cousin, I love this brother, but I know they're not reliable. I can be reliable for them, but I know in any given chance, they're not making it their mission to help me the way I help them. So you have to actually, to a point with your friends, have allies that you can, trust and deal with. Say, hey, I have your back, you have my back. If there's a situation you're going through, there's an understanding you can always count on me just like I can count on you. You know, Sometimes you have your brothers and sisters or maybe uncles or some of cousins that's real close that you can work with. But then, like I said, it's just sometimes you might have that friend that's just as powerful as a family member. Know everybody in the family that you can count on as well. Everybody in the family knows you. It's to a point where, but basically, when it circles back around to the conversation of first family, I was looking at the whole thing of coming from a side of the president, having being the first family, and having that understanding, flipping it upside down and relaying it to the mob. In the mob, families is real important, you know, and then the ties that you have for that family is even more important because it's predicated on them making money. It's predicated on them being able to trust. The whole situation is if I can trust you, then we can work on these things and make these things work. If I can't trust you, then that creates a level of, issue. How can I be able to do business with somebody I can't trust? You know, if anything were to happen, how can I trust you to get the job done? You know, in business, that's the same thing as far as contracts with even getting married. If I can't trust my wife with a $500 or a $5,000 check, how can I trust her with $1 million check? You know, if I don't understand that the person I'm dealing with is only there for benefits, not actually for what I'm there for, then it doesn't work like that. You can't be able to garner a relationship to where we can both back and forth have an understanding of what needs to be done. That's one of the main things in marriage too that a lot of people don't focus on, that level of trust for each other. Because to a degree, I've always said this a lot. You know, I don't trust nobody fully. Let me get that squared away. I never trust nobody fully because my thing is this: people are human. People can be 100% majority of the time, and then flip maybe 5 to 20% of the time. So having that level, saying that okay, I know this person might go south one day, it gives me a little cushion to where, hey, it's room for error. You know, that's why. A lot of people think, well, you went through trust problems and in situations. No, it's a level, a room for error. You know, and in measurements. Sometimes when you measure, you always measure either a foot more or a couple of centimeters, whatever, depending on the way you measure more, because you can always account for, the mistakes in measurement by measuring a little more to where you cut a piece. If you have a little more, you can always cut it down. But if you have less, you got to restart the process over again. And that's the whole thing with measuring with people, you know. Always, to a degree, expect certain things to happen to where you won't be surprised. Even with family members. I know I can have a family member that's A1, that's always on time, does something for me every single time, no questions asked. And that one time they, don't do it right, I'm cool with that. You know, and that's the whole thing. But mainly, the majority times when they're on point, that gives me that sense of, okay, you're there for me just like I'm there for you. And that's the whole biggest thing about friendship, where a lot of people neglect it, far as nowadays, is the loyalty. You know, us working together, us, being friends for what? Not just because you could do something for me like I can do something for you, but to the point where it's like family. You know, there's family members that most people say they'll die for. And there are some people that say they won't die for anybody, but it's all upon the circumstances, you know. And I'm gonna actually end with this. There's a video that's circling around where, it's like the guy goes and says, if I give you $1 million, would you be happy? And would you take it? Everybody agrees and says, yes, that's good. I'll take the money. And then he comes back and say, if I give you $10 million, but you will die tomorrow, would you take the money? The average person says no, I wouldn't take the money. I would say, why not? You only have one life, you know, live it up. That $10 million could set your family, you know, and I guess that's what me being family oriented and thinking of situations for my family and knowing my death kind of puts me in a position to know what I'm dealing with and how things are going to be. So with most, like I said, even my wife, I had that talk with her, asking her, would she take the 10 million? She said, no, I don't want to die. And that's like one of the key things, like it shocks your head. You love money so much that you will take money from a stranger, that $1 million, but then when they offer you $10 million and they say you'll die, then it kind of puts value on the money or your life or your time. You know, the value of my life is already, still standing to where if if my family's happy and doing well, that's one of the main things I emphasize on. I always talk about generational wealth, and it's to a point that you know I'm looking at the situation, the forest through the trees. If I can sustain this, type of lifestyle for my family, pretty much that's what I'm living for. That's what I'm taking care of things for right now, sustaining life, sustaining things for my family. So if I can get them there faster to the race, why not? That's the same thing with me having life insurance. If I take this life insurance policy out and something happens to me tomorrow, it's the same as me getting that $10 million. The direction in which the money is used for, I'll lay it out. I've always laid it out on my channel, laid it out with my wife, you know, spending the money buying assets, buying real estate, buying more life insurance, you know, fixing a trust and going for there. But with that being said, have an understanding. Keep family ties, whether they're being with friends or family, to, count on somebody. You know, everybody, we're born alone to a degree if you're not a twin. But to a degree, you're pretty much born alone, but Have someone you can count on. Have someone you can trust. Out of life, there's literally one person you should be able to trust no matter what. Maybe even two, you know. But like I always say, I leave room for error. Everybody, they don't have that same mindset as me, so they might don't. But with me, I leave room for error. With that being said, my motto: we here and we gone.